If procrastination is such a destructive habit, I think it'd be worth our while today to just take a few minutes and see what is actually happening when you and I procrastinate. Now, we can do that by looking at the 3 stages of procrastination, because procrastination is going to follow this same pattern. Whether we're talking about changing the oil in the car, sending Aunt Susie an email, or even in serious matters of salvation or the call of God on our life to a particular work or ministry, it always begins this same way, and that is with some type of a diversion. You see, the devil is the force behind procrastination. And before he can do anything else, he has to get our attention. Now, he does that by creating a diversion. What I mean by this is, he sets up a little plan B over here. You see, it's not the idea that I am rejecting plan A, the thing God really wants me to do right now. It's just that I'm going to take this little detour and I'm going to come back to it later on. And you know what? If we could catch procrastination right here, we would not even need the rest of this message. But the problem is, at this stage, it's usually a very subtle, very innocent-looking little thing. Let me just give you a little simple, everyday example to illustrate my point here. Back a few years ago, I was asked to do a day of teacher training at a Christian school. Now, the school bought me a nice hotel room the night before I was to speak, and whenever I stay in a nice hotel like that, I like to take advantage of all the little free things that they offer their guests. And so this hotel had a free breakfast for all the guests. So I got my Bible that morning, and I went down to the lobby, and I was going to enjoy that free breakfast while I had my devotions there in the lobby. But on my way there, something else caught my attention. It was also free. It was a copy of the USA Today newspaper sitting out there on the front desk. And you know, something about those headlines that day kind of reached out and snagged my attention. And I looked over and I picked it up and I said, you know, that's kind of interesting. I'm going to take a quick look at this. And you know what? God kind of stopped me right there, because I saw what was about to happen. I was going to go over there. I was going to sit down at that breakfast table, get absorbed in that newspaper. Time would pass. I'd have to go speak. Would not have gotten into the Word of God that day like I should have. Well, by the Lord's help, I was able to put that paper back, get into His Word. But that's just a simple little example of what I'm talking about. It's not the idea that we're rejecting plan A. You see, I wasn't thinking, I don't want to read my Bible. I was just thinking, I'm going to take a little detour, come back to it in a minute. But you see, the problem with that thinking is that it will quickly lead into the second stage of procrastination, which is rationalization. Rationalization. Because you can't keep going down plan B very long without rationalizing what you're doing. Let's put a definition on this word so we all know what we're talking about here. Rationalization means ignoring obvious consequences in order to justify my behavior. In other words, it's when I tell myself a little lie so I can keep going down plan B a bit longer. It usually involves some type of short-term thinking that ignores the long-term consequences. It's the fellow that says, I know I ought to quit smoking cigarettes, but you know, one more is not going to give me lung cancer. Or the fellow that says, yeah, I probably ought to change the oil in the car today, but hey, one more trip to the grocery store, that ain't going to blow the engine or anything. I had a friend one time, told me about a time he wanted to buy a used car out of the classified ads. He said he called up this lady that was selling it, and he said, ma'am, is this a good car? She said, why, it sure is. Been 50,000 miles, and I haven't even had to change the oil in it yet. Well, I don't think my friend bought that car, but that kind of reminded me of something I might do, because there's always that thought at this stage that we can go a little further here. Nothing's really going to happen. It'll be okay. But eventually, procrastination is going to end in some form of death or destruction. Whether it's the death of the car engine, the death of the relationship, the death of the project, whatever it is. And then there's only one more thing left to do, and that is to create excuses. Excuses. Hey, you ever notice how good a procrastinator can get at coming up with excuses? I mean, there's always some reason why things aren't happening the way they're supposed to happen. It's the student that says, oh, Mom, I could have done a lot better than that grade shows, but right there at the end, everything was due at the same time. The teachers just didn't understand. I just didn't. Or it's the employee that says, Boss, I could have done better, but right there at the end, something went wrong. I didn't have time to fix it up. It just didn't. A procrastinator is going to cost his company more than he's going to produce for him, right? Because there's always some reason why things aren't happening the way they're really supposed to be happening. And meanwhile, life can take a pretty downward spiral for the real chronic procrastinator.